American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life. When the words all come down like blues on Tuesday.
Welcome to another episode of American Timelines. I'm Amy, and that's Joe.
And we are back with episode 100. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know why I say that if I'm never sure. I always say what number it is, and I don't really know. But we have another guest this week.
Yes.
That we are so excited to have. Super cool surprise nerd, TBJ from the Nerd Skool Podcast. Welcome, TBJ.
Hello. I feel like having a
Yeah, we need one of those. We totally need one of
I
those.
got to add something like that in, like theme music or something.
I'm
Like,
gonna put that in my future writer.
yeah,
Must have air horns
Must have
to intro.
Must have an air horn. But anyway, Tiffany is on History for Jerks' other podcast, Nerd Skool, and so we're just hitting it hard with the marketing
That's
by
right.
having her here on
Promotion.
American Timelines, and
Yeah.
so we're also. I know Tiffany is great at presenting this kind of stuff, so she's a nerd, which works great with history nerd stuff. And so was she chewing on this? Okay, our dog was chewing on my paper. And she's good at this. I've worked with Tiffany in several other aspects, and she put on something in our Nerdy Night Out show live in Charlotte, and she presented kick-ass female in history biography.
That's right.
Remind me who you did.
Ida B. Wells.
Oh, Ida B. Wells. That's right.
That's right.
Because we talked about women. It was Ladies Rock the Vote, and we did like women who've run for office and things. So Ida B. Wells. It was really cool. Anyway, so the way she presented that was so good that I knew she'd be great at this. And plus, we can pump up Nerd Skool, and plus, Tiffany Bryant Jackson kicks ass. So,
Well, thank you.
thanks for being here, TBJ.
Yes.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm really excited.
Yes, me too. So we're going to jump right in, and we'll talk a little bit about Nerd Skool later in the episode, like at the end. Since last week we went on and on about TBJ and Art Star being the best, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
So we're going to jump right in. August 1st, 1950 is where we are. That was a Tuesday, and on that day, the Soviet Union returned to the UN Security Council. I don't know if you remember a couple months back I said that they disappeared. And when the UN voted to join South Korea in a battle against North Korea, Russia wasn't there. The Soviet Union wasn't there, and so they might have voted against it, and it wouldn't have happened. But so they came back after refusing to send a delegate since January, and during the Soviet absence, the Security Council had authorized the UN to enter the Korean War, a move that the Soviets probably would have could have vetoed. So I know I'm not going to get into the heavy of the Korean War because there's just
You're right.
there's battles going on.
This isn't a war podcast.
Yeah, it's not a war podcast. I mean, we talk about politics a little bit, but we really want to focus on the cool, fun, interesting events and just kind of just
Well, like rape and murder.
like rape and yeah, like all the rapes. Yeah, right. I guess those aren't cool.
RRM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just kind of lets you know what the time is. You know, this is the time we're in. We're during the Korean War. The MASH stuff was going on. Lance Ito, the judge from the OJ trial, was born August 2nd.
Oh my God.
Those kind of things are happening. I gotta work in birthdays however I can. And then on August 4th, 1950, the U.S. State Department canceled the passport of African-American singer and activist Paul Robeson after he refused to sign an oath that he was not affiliated with any communist organizations.
Oh.
Again, so it just goes right in this whole communism thing was going on. This McCarthyism, and just anybody liberal was basically being accused of being a communist. And
Yup.
in that vein, Counterattack Magazine, which purported to identify Communist Party members and sympathizers in the motion picture and television industries, reported that same day that actors Marlon Brando and Burt Lancaster and director Elia Kazan were all persons who had a Communist Front record. And so you know about Elia Kazan
Yeah.
in all that. So this was this time. So I had never heard of Counterattack Magazine. Have you guys either heard of that? But
No.
it was actually like a newsletter, basically just outing people for being communist. And it had
For being alleged
communists are saying they are. Because they're probably just saying they're liberal. It had two missions, one ostensibly journalistic, the other vigorously interventionist. First, it set out to expose everyone it could find who had any connection, however dubious or tenuous, to anything or anyone associated with communism, socialism, the Soviet Union, or any progressive ideology. Then, more significantly, Counterattack sought to rally its subscribers to action against the individuals it targeted. In its assault on performers and production personnel in radio and television, Counterattack exhorted its readers to write protest letters to the corporate sponsors of programs featuring actors with purported links to the left. So just trying to get everybody to boycott stuff. So it's really just like, it's like the MAGA movement is how I look at it. This
Very
phrase.
similar.
It just never changes. Like, it never changes. Names change, but
Right.
it's so weird. Such a scary time, though,
The
too.
target is moving, but
It's the same
yeah.
ideology. But in a lighter note, that same day again, the film noir Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye, starring James Cagney and Barbara Payton, premiered in New York City. You know what that is?
No.
Are you familiar? So you know James Cagney. Everyone knows
Yes.
him.
Yeah.
But I thought I had heard of it, but I wasn't sure. I looked at it it's on YouTube. It's kind of cool because these movies from 1950 are all free, like on YouTube now, because it's, I don't know if it's old
Like
enough
public
where-
domain or
I don't
something,
know if
probably.
it's-
Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but
I don't know when the public domain is. That something big, just The Great Gatsby, just became in the public domain this year.
oh
They said.
really?
So they're saying all these.
And it's just like a certain time.
Yeah,
has
it's like
been a lot of.
75 years. I thought it was, whatever it is, but a lot of these movies are so old. I think they're on there, but film noir is always interesting to me because I don't really know what that means
Right.
generally. I mean, I do now because I looked it up, but it's like a crime, 50s crime movies kind of thing. So it's that, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Can you have the dog stop doing that? The dog is bumping the microphones. So I looked up this movie a little bit, and the film was banned in Ohio as a sordid, sadistic presentation of brutality and an extreme presentation of crime with explicit steps in commission.
What does that mean?
So it was like just too much crime. It was
Okay.
too like, I don't know if Ohioans are so pure that they thought people were going to start being bad. But the movie is based on Ralph Cotter, who's a career criminal who escapes from prison and then murders his partner in crime. Along the way, he attempts to woo his ex-partner's sister, Barbara Payton, by threatening to expose her role in his escape. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that they would ban a movie like that. And if you watch on YouTube, it'd probably be rated PG or G even
Right.
nowadays. But things are just so different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Film noir is. I felt dumb because I don't really. I'm not really big. When I did improv, one big thing you'd have to do is like a lot of times you'd get a suggestion of a movie genre. Whenever they
Yeah.
said film noir, I was like, I'm not sure what that.
What that
means.
is, yeah.
But then everybody starts going, yeah, see, hey, the crime,
Right.
you know. But yeah,
It's
so
like the detective and the blonde. Then
I was always terrible too.
Yeah,
at-
if you could walk into any office in the
That's
world,
right.
you had to walk into mine.
that's
Yeah,
exactly
there you
it.
go,
That's
yeah.
right. Yep.
I was also always bad at like directors of movies, like just like okay, the style of Joel, whoever, Joel Schumacher, do it. I was like, I don't know what Joel Schumacher directs.
Oh right. Yeah.
Anyway, and then Saturday, August 5th, 1950, a bomb-laden B-29 super fortress crashed into a residential area near the Fairfield Suisun Air Base in California, killing 17 people and injuring 68. Brigadier General Robert T. Travis was one of the fatalities, and the base would be renamed in his honor as Travis Air Force Base.
Wow.
Have you ever been to that Air Force Base, Tiffany Bryant Jackson?
I don't think so. I feel like my Air Force time was so long ago. Sometimes even I forget I was in the Air Force.
That's pretty cool though. Not a lot of people have
Yeah.
Yeah.
experience that I know.
Yeah, but you can
Yeah,
drive.
it's-
Tiffany can drive. You can drive any vehicle, right?
I was in transportation, so I can drive your wrecker, your tractor trailer, your buses for dignitaries.
What about
all
tank?
that.
Did you ever drive a tank?
I did not drive a tank, but I can drive a tractor trailer to haul just about anything you need.
Wow.
Really? Tractor
It
trailers?
would probably be the same concept. So
Yeah, tractor trailers
Yeah.
are intimidating,
Yes.
I would think, to drive. And to back it up and then have the.
they are, but I'd rather drive a tractor trailer than the wrecker. I hated driving the wrecker because then you'd have to tie down people's vehicles where they got stuck.
Oh,
So that
yeah.
was probably my least favorite thing to drive if someone broke down. We're in the middle of Alaska, so sometimes
Whoa.
cars just stop working because it's cold.
It's cold.
I
Yeah.
so
didn't
if
know
you
were in
had to-
Alaska. That's
See,
crazy.
random fun facts that come out all the time.
Yeah.
So if a vehicle just stopped working, especially on the airfield, I hated if I had to wrecker it.
Oh, man.
So you just drive over top of it?
No, you would load it. You would back up,
like
just
a tow
like
truck.
your AAA.
I
Yeah,
thought it was a wrecker, like it would wreck the truck.
to wreck it. I would like that if it was a wreck it and I could just
pictured
wreck
you
it.
driving
Ralph
over
it.
top of it.
So she just. You think people just drive out? Well, we're broken down. Please come and destroy my car.
Just smash it into the ground.
Where it sits.
Turns into the road.
Hulk smash.
That's
I would
hilarious.
probably like that job. It would get out all my aggression on.
It
all
would.
things.
I would love to see TBJ like a Bigfoot monster truck.
Yeah, just
crushing cars.
Crushing cars.
just wreck it.
A wrecker. That's hilarious. That's great. I'm gonna jump to. Oh, I'm gonna jump to Tuesday, August 8th. Oh no, this isn't TBJ. Tuesday, August 8th, 1950. Do you guys know who Florence Chadwick is?
No.
I know the name.
I don't think. Do you? Okay. Florence Chadwick of the United States swam across the English Channel
Oh, I've heard about that.
in 1950 in 13 hours and 22 minutes, breaking the women's record set by Gertrude Ederle. Everybody knows Gertrude Ederle.
No.
On August 6,
Obviously.
1926. Chadwick arrived on the shores of Dover at 3:59 p.m. local time and became only the third woman to cross the channel after Ederle and Millie Gade Corson, who made the crossing in 1926, also August 28th. Do you know how long the English Channel is? Because I had to know. Just
How
for
long did it take her to swim it?
13 hours and 22 minutes.
Oh,
Can you imagine
Ooh.
swimming for
can
13
you
hours?
imagine swimming for 13 hours?
I
Why
can't
would
imagine
you-
being in the water for 13 hours.
Why would you want to
I
do
can
that?
I can lounge in some water for a good minute
With a
but
drink
that's
in
on
your
a
hand.
floaty. Yeah, that's like on the floaty with the drink.
Yeah.
I'm not actively swimming
Yeah, you. Oh,
for.
So in that
In-
amount of time, you have to go to the bathroom.
you have
do
to
you
take
just-
a
Yeah,
take
but
a
if-
shit while you're
You just
swimming.
pee and poop while you're swimming?
Maybe.
You're in the ocean. You probably restrict what you eat. I'm willing to bet.
Yeah.
It's like you have to restrict your diet
Yeah.
to do
Maybe
it.
you want to have like diarrhea.
Or to help you,
Then it just comes out,
it just comes out as
and
you're going.
it kind of speed you along.
It's not easy. I don't think it's easy to poop underwater, probably.
No.
Have you ever pooped underwater? Have you ever pooped underwater, TBJ?
I can say with confidence that I have not.
I thought for sure you'd be like, yeah, in the Air Force in Alaska. Right?
No, we did not swim. We were not the Navy or the Coast Guard. I should ask my cousin. He's in the Coast Guard. I should be like, hey,
Yeah,
in
really.
your training,
Do you poop
have you pooped in the water?
Because I've peed in the water, but it's not easy. Like, you have to,
Think about it.
think about it and just let it go
Right.
in your trousers or whatever. But so it is 350 miles.
Jeez.
Ooh,
Swimming 350 miles. That is
Wow.
insane.
it's a
to me.
lot.
So that'd be like from here to where?
Something that's 350 miles away. I guess Nashville,
Wow. That's crazy.
maybe, is 350 miles, maybe. Well, going to my house, my parents' house
Yeah.
up in Ohio is 559 miles. So
So just like 200.
almost half of
Okay.
that. So,
Oh
That
wow,
is a long way
That's
to
still-
swim.
oh my gosh. To swim that long? Why are you...
I know. Why
That's
would you want to?
insane. Like, I don't understand people like that. And then marathon runners, I also...
I just don't understand why anybody would want to do
You
that.
didn't you run a marathon, TBJ?
No marathons.
You ran a
I've
5K.
only- Yes, I've only done 5Ks, and that's
different.
about
It's a little different.
that's as far as I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to shame you for something exercise related.
Listen, I don't run as much as I used to. Years ago, I did a lot of 5Ks. Like, there was a couple years where it was like every other month I felt like we were at a 5K. But that was to prove to myself, I've always hated running.
Yeah.
Like, even when I was in high school and didn't weigh anything, I still hated running.
Me too.
And so
I'm
when
with you on that.
We'd be out and you'd have to run. I was on the dance team, so we'd have to have summer camps and you'd be running. And I'd be like, I only have to dance for 3 minutes. Why am I running a mile? Like, this doesn't make sense. I can be out of breath in 3 minutes and walk off the court.
Yes.
What is this running for?
Yeah.
So it was a challenge to myself for those couple of years because I was like, you say you hate running, so let's see if you actually hate it. Newsflash, I still hate it.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah,
I hate it
still
so
hate it.
much.
Yeah, I ran for a little bit a while in the past few years just to try to stay in shape. And I like the feeling you get afterwards, like the endorphins and everything. You feel great, but it's just like the whole time it's just miserable.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
It's
I don't
awful.
get
Yeah,
people that
I'm
love it.
not. Some people love while they're running. And I think they're just, listen,
Different people.
some of us are built
that
different.
they just have to be. Because
Masochists
for
or
me, it's almost not physically painful to run, but like I'm almost flat-footed. And so I think that has a really big bearing on it. Because even since I was like in kindergarten,
Yeah, you run.
don't say I run funny.
You run unnaturally. I'll say that. You don't look like you should be running. Like if you're
No.
running, there's an
That
emergency.
is so not nice.
That is worse than saying you run funny.
I know.
I mean it in a good way.
You run unnaturally.
I just
Unnaturally.
mean like if you're running, there must be an emergency. Like there's some people that are
trying
like
to
that,
say
like,
I'm lazy now.
No, you don't. I just don't. I don't know if any. I don't know. I think some people just run. I don't know. No,
You're just,
I'll
but you're, yeah,
There's
you're
nothing
digging
I
your
can
hole.
say to get out of this now. So I'll
Stop
just
digging
stop.
the hole,
All right,
Joe.
what's
Stop
next?
digging your
Yes.
hole.
So sorry. I didn't mean it as an insult. You're very beautiful when you run weird. August
Goodness.
Thursday,
Damn it.
August 10th, 1950. Another film noir, Sunset Boulevard. You
I've
guys
heard of
know
that.
Yep.
It's a Gloria Steinem.
Starring William Holden and Gloria Swanson.
Gloria Swanson.
It was
Gloria
released.
Steinem.
No, the dog.
that's not-
Okay, the dog's ruining all our wires. It's often ranked among the greatest movies ever made. There's a new dog shaking her collar. As it was deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the U.S. Library of Congress in 1989, the film stars William Holden as Joe Gillis, a struggling screenwriter, and Gloria Swanson as Norma Desmond, a former silent film star who draws him into her demented fantasy world, where she dreams of making a triumphant return to the screen.
Yeah, I think that's the one where she says, "I'm ready for my close-up."
Oh, and she's like a crazy person.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you ever see that, TBJ?
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it. I think it's on YouTube again, though. So I think like if it's one of the greatest movies ever made, I guess I should probably watch it.
I would not classify it in my top movies made,
You
but
would.
that's just me.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
is Iron Man and Batman's in the number one, right?
Listen, The Dark Knight Rises is one of the best films ever made.
Really? What about Batman, 1989's Batman?
I don't know. I feel like if we're ranking, and we can talk about this later in Nerd
Yeah,
School, if
we'll
we're
talk
ranking
about this.
Batman movies, for me, The Dark Knight Rises is the
Now
top.
that's the second
And
one
then-
with what's his name? Christian Bale
Yep.
with the Joker. That's the one with the Joker in it.
Crazy Christian. No.
Or is it the third one?
Is
with
that
Christian-
one? No.
The first one was
Hold on.
Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul.
No, Joker's not in that one.
There's the
because you're thinking
Batman
Joker.
Begins, The Dark Knight
Yeah.
Rises, and then what?
Dark Knight Returns or something.
I can't remember what the third one.
Oh. I feel like I'm going to get my Batman card
Oh,
taken
here
away.
we go, Miss Batman.
Oh.
Because Tiffany, I've been watching all the Batmans because they're on HBO Max. I've been watching them over the break, and I'm up to that next one that I think you're talking about. I think has Heath Ledger was Joker.
But that's after
Oh, that's
The
third
Dark
one.
Knight Rises.
Oh.
Dark Knight Rises came out earlier because it was 2012 was Dark Knight Rises came out.
Oh,
And I loved it so much. I'm going to disclaimer myself though, because I'm tired. because I just got off for work. But Dark Knight Rises is Bane. There's
Bane.
There's Bane in that one.
Oh,
right.
that's the one you like? Is the Bane one?
I do. I love it.
I never saw that.
Because I don't think you see it coming. But I also think the storytelling was just done really well in there.
All right.
Like, I like a superhero, but I like storytelling more.
Well,
Which is probably
Batman's your favorite, right? Out of all the superheroes?
because I am Batman. Yes.
Tiff is Batman.
I am.
Yes, that's funny. Okay. Anyway, well, who was better between Val Kilmer and George Clooney?
Will you stop?
Okay, we got to get back. Okay, sorry. We'll
Get back to the
Wrong
50s
podcast.
show.
we'll do that on Nerd School. It's not that long. I don't have much. That's why I'm the banter people want to hear about Batman. Maybe not.
That's when you say, stay tuned for Nerd School.
That's right.
Yeah,
When
well,
we
you
finally
can listen to
review
this-
all the
yeah,
Batmans.
we will have the same conversation on Nerd School 25 times. August 11th.
And there will be an argument with Art and
Yeah,
I
that's
over
a good thing. Is Art
Batman.
always pushes her buttons and they
Oh,
get into it. Friday, August 11th, 1950, Steve Wozniak was born.
Okay.
You know who that is?
Yes.
Just so you know when he was born. And then Saturday, August 12th, 1950, Hurricane Abel was announced by meteorologist Grady Norton of the U.S. Weather Bureau. It was the first under the new system of naming hurricanes with names rather than numbers.
Yeah.
It produced 140 mile per hour winds but did not make landfall. Prior to 1950, hurricane force storms were identified by number, with 1949 Storm 11 closing the previous season.
I wonder why they said Abel. Why that was the name.
I think they start alphabetically.
I know, but
think.
why then you'd start with Aaron?
Well, I mean, there's only one.
I think
A.
there's something about who gets to name them too.
Oh, is
Yeah,
there?
I think it's like whatever meteorologist like finds it or something.
Yeah.
And they were maybe they were a big Bible guy like Abel, Cain and Abel. Or,
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a mystery in the
I mean, I
moonlight.
guess I could do that research and find out what Grady Norton was thinking.
But don't worry about it.
That same day, the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission issued its first book on safety in the event of a nuclear war, entitled The Effects of Atomic Weapons. Editor Joseph O. Hirschfelder wrote in the introduction that just as our ancestors learned to face the perils of cholera and smallpox epidemics, so must modern man learn to live with the man-made danger of atomic bomb attack.
Jesus.
Advice included duck and cover, advising that within 1 second after the flash of a bomb to fall flat and double up.
Good night.
Yeah. You know, back then they probably thought there was going to be an atomic bomb
Every
every year.
I mean, it was heavy on
Yeah.
their brains.
Yeah.
I can't imagine just walking around thinking any minute it could just
Yeah. I mean,
all be over.
Our parents and grandparents all
Yeah.
did those drills, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
And they probably think we're nuts that you're doing mass
Bad
shooter drills.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy. August 13th, 1950 was a Sunday. And the English language, I know I'm not going to get heavy into the Korean War, but this one I thought was interesting because the English language, we talked about propaganda broadcasts on our
Yes.
last episode. The English language propaganda broadcast of Seoul City Sioux that were on the air since June 28th ended after a U.S. airstrike on the North Korean-controlled radio broadcast facilities in Seoul. So I'd never heard of this. Seoul City Sioux was spewing propaganda, and she was an American. Anna Wallace Sioux was her name, of Oklahoma, who had pledged allegiance to North Korea, the North Korean cause after the invasion of Seoul. After the broadcast tower was repaired, she never returned to the air, so they didn't know what happened to her. It turned out she didn't end up dying, but according to PsyWarrior.com, PSYWarrior.com, Seoul City Sioux, her real name Anna Wallace, became a staple during the war. She would read the names off of dog tags taken from dead American soldiers in a gentle voice with a background of soft music. Her broadcasts involved mostly her taunting American soldiers with various unpleasant suggestions and criticisms of their situation.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was from Oklahoma, just kind of like a country girl. That
She sounds like she's
radical.
got an Asian sounding name.
Well, she married an Asian guy that she met in, I think he was a Japanese guy, and then they ended up moving to Seoul.
Okay,
She
I
met him in
see.
France or something. I did the whole research, but it wasn't that interesting. Just she met him in college
Oh, I see.
overseas.
Okay.
And married.
And then she decided, F us?
Yeah,
Is
she
that
was
what
just-
she just decided?
Yeah, I think she just got, indoctrinated, and like he was kind of like a radical, but she was white as white can be, like just farm.
Oh, really?
Farm white, yeah, like
Wow.
yeah. So it's just odd, like to think about that. And then I'm going to jump all the way. See, I don't have a whole lot, so I'm jumping all the way to the 18th of August. Fred Snyder, who was working on his doctoral thesis at Wichita State University, he was a PhD candidate, completed his experiment in visual perception after 30 days of having worn inverted prisms, a set of special glasses which turned his view upside down.
Ugh.
After a few days, he found that his brain was able to adapt to the view,
Yeah.
to the point that he was able to drive a car and watch movies upside down.
Yeah.
Snyder would later publish his findings in the 1952 book Vision with Spatial Inversion. And Tiffany, I'm glad you didn't pick this one because I couldn't find any other information in that paragraph.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't. But I just thought that was
That's crazy.
Weird.
I had a when I worked at that school for kids with real severe disabilities, there was a girl who she was basically shaped kind of like a starfish.
Oh yeah.
Like she looked like a thalidomide baby back in the 60s when pregnant women would take thalidomide and they'd have these
Isn't it thalidomide with a TH?
thalidomide.
I think it's
I thought-
thalidomide.
Anyway, I don't know.
Isn't it?
I don't know.
We'll have to check that one.
Yeah.
I could Google it.
Anyway, her neck was completely like her ear was touching her shoulder all the time.
Oh, wow.
And they talked about doing a surgery that would straighten her neck out, but they said that because she'd been like that her whole life, that it would screw up her vision really badly if they straightened her neck, because then it would be like if ours were suddenly sideways.
Yeah.
Like her brain had figured out. So
yeah.
it's just bizarre.
She probably would have adjusted. Now that we
Yeah.
know this guy.
That was the least of her problems.
Yeah. Well, it is thalidomide. And
But thalidomide.
yeah, I only know it from that. Again, the second week in a row, we talked about the Billy Joel song.
Oh,
Children of thalidomide.
okay.
I can't remember what rhymes that. Andy would know.
Yeah, he
when,
would.
When Andy's listening to this episode, he will sing.
That whole
He will
Whatever
sing the song.
He'll sing the
Sing the
whole
whole
line
song.
before and children of thalidomide.
All right.
Now I'm desperately trying to remember what the other line is that rhymes with thalidomide. But yeah, that's crazy. That's funny that reminded you of that. Can you
Yeah.
imagine going through life with that girl who's kind of bent over? And I remember in Chicago one time I was crossing the street going to work in the morning, and this old man was walking next to me, and he just same kind of thing. He was completely bent completely over as he walked. Like
Yeah.
he was looking straight down because his back was bent so far
Yeah,
over.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, how does he even... How did he even get here? How did he get off the train? How did he know where he's going? But
Yeah.
he must...
I mean, you adjust and you overcome.
Yeah, people get
Adjust
through.
and overcome.
People can get through so much. And that's why I think
Yeah.
everybody needs to just realize that if you think you got it bad and everything's tough for you, somebody's got it worse.
Look at this sorry motherfucker over here.
That motherfucker
Yeah.
is dealing with something where somebody's always dealing with something way worse.
Yeah.
And they don't think it's a big deal. Maybe they do. I don't know.
It depends on how long they've been dealing.
Yeah, I guess overnight that would be bad. But Saturday, August 19th, 1950, the American cultural tradition of Saturday morning television being set aside for children's programming officially began on this day with the premiere on the ABC network of two live shows, Animal Clinic and Acrobat Ranch. Those were the first children's shows on Saturday. Now, they weren't cartoons, but it was the first beginning of that's children's programming on Saturday
Okay.
mornings.
1950.
1950s. Now, Animal Clinic is like going into the zoo with live animals, but Acrobat Ranch featured Uncle Jim introducing circus-type acts and featured two young gymnasts, Flying Flo and Tumbling Tim. I just thought that was silly. Like those names, those 1950s.
It'd be funny to hear a clip of that.
Yeah, I'm sure you can on YouTube. I should have brought
Totally
that
look it
up
up,
and
yeah.
put the audio on.
Too late, I guess.
I don't know. I don't think. I thought I read somewhere that there's no tapes of it because back then in the original days, like
They just tape over it.
They tape over everything because tape was so expensive. So I don't know if there's any recordings anywhere.
Yeah,
of that.
that's true.
And who would know you would want to look back on that, right? And if you're in the middle of the 50s and recording a show, you're not thinking, God, people are going to want to look back on this.
No, you didn't. You're just amazed that you could broadcast live images. You didn't even think about that. Mm-hmm. There's so many things.
Some of the actors are probably happy that you can't go back and look at them.
Yeah. Although if they could get, residuals, I guess it's not worth much. People that, I think about people on like, The Office that's on 45 channels at once.
Yeah, like how much money they're making.
Each episode, even if you get $3 an episode.
It's streaming everywhere.
Yeah, you got to pay every actor that was on it $3, and you got to pay. Mm-hmm. I can't even fathom. But that same day, the spouse and children of any alien member of the U.S. Armed Forces became eligible for immigration to the U.S. under a law passed by Congress. The new law provided for admission of eligible dependents regardless of existing national quotas, race, or ethnic origin, provided that the marriage took place before March 19th, 1952.
But we're in 1950. I don't understand.
They enacted it then.
Yeah.
As long as you're married before, you have until March 19th.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I guess to get married.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess.
I'm with you.
I don't know why I kept that in there. Except anything like that is weird to me. Like that seems early for that to be. Anything that says regardless of race or ethnic origin in 1950, I'm surprised.
You're like, wow.
I'm surprised that anybody would even think of that because you just think of it.
They were desperate for soldiers, though.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That is true.
The military, so that you give them any incentive. Yeah, I guess
the
that's
poor
true.
and disenfranchised have always been the majority of our military service.
Yeah, I guess that's
that's still true to this day.
Yeah,
yes,
it's by design.
It's like who is looking to join, like who is eager to join.
Right.
It's people, small towns, eager to get out.
Yeah,
I gotta go.
Yes.
It's like steeped in family history. Like it is what you do. Like I jokingly call the military the family business because that it is. Just about everyone has done it.
I think that's a big thing. That family tradition thing is a big thing. Like your family, Tiffany, right? Your whole family, like going back.
My dad, dad served. Mom is currently in the reserves. Brother.
That's awesome.
Out of 40-something cousins, probably over half of us have served in one way or another. My dad is one of 11, and probably more than half of them have served. Some are just retiring. Grandfather served. Like, it is.
Yeah.
What we've done.
Yeah. In your family.
But it started, we're from a teeny tiny one stoplight town.
Yeah,
so it started as a way to get out.
Yeah.
And then it just warped into this crazy thing.
Well, it seems like it is a real valid way out for people who are real poor. Like I had a buddy who's
there's a lot of benefits.
Real super poor, and it paid for his college. I mean, he was like, I got a free college. I don't know about you, but I am debt free. I was like, yeah, I guess that's right. And so,
I mean, there are definitely, and I will side note, military should be paid more. There are people in the military who still qualify for public assistance, which just seems
that's ridiculous.
an odd thing to me.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But if you utilize your benefits well, and if you take the time while you're in, because unfortunately, I know a lot of people who were in to get out, and when they're done, they didn't really take the time to save, learn, grow, and then they begin civilian life, and all these new things are coming at you, like rent, because you don't have to pay rent when you're in. You're not paying rent, you're not paying utilities.
Yeah.
So your check is your check, and if you haven't saved well or thought what life looks like outside the military, you end up kind of screwed all over again.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine your pay increases as you move up within ranks, right? And get different certifications and things like
ranks and years.
Ranks and years. And I would imagine that you would, so you could, if you're really motivated, end up making a lot. But your life is on the line at the same time. So
yeah, you're always at risk, one.
Yeah. And
even if you're making more, like it doesn't always equate to a living wage. I mean, you do have housing. You're not paying for housing.
Yeah.
And depending on where you're stationed, some places have really nice housing, no matter what your rank is, and some places still have really the crappiest of houses.
No, but I'm sure so many people are paying for other people's housing, your family, and if you're married, you have to pay for somebody's housing. So, yeah. I don't know how we got on that, but it's crazy. I've always just thought the world of people that serve because I don't think I have what it takes to do
Right.
it.
No,
I don't know. My dad.
It is a
my dad was in
different
the Marines.
world.
It's a different world. Yeah, it's discipline that I just don't. I don't know if I have. Like even
Right.
just the physical, being able to physically do that. I definitely know at my age now I can't. Maybe when I was in high school I could have.
I mean, Joe, my mom can, so you might still can.
I can barely get out of bed, man. I don't know.
I'm way too self-indulgent to ever be in.
Yeah, there's not like
services
a box of Oreos that you can
Right.
just eat
or whatever.
No, you've got your yearly weigh-ins and your yearly physical fitness. Sometimes but fun fact, I did not pass after I had my second child.
Really?
My weigh-in, obviously, because I had a child.
Oh,
Yeah.
I had a child and I threw my back. So it was like the worst circumstances because I wasn't as physically fit as they would have liked to pass yearly. I was fit enough to do my job. I did my job just fine. But
so what happens? What happens when you don't pass your yearly?
So it depends on a few things. Like you get a chance to make it up in some circumstances. It can affect promotions in other circumstances. I was on the line because it affected my promotion date. I'd already passed the test to promote, and I couldn't iron on my patch or sew on until I physically passed it.
Did you
it
get promoted to sergeant?
Yes, I was becoming a staff sergeant.
Oh my
But here's the thing. Yes. I did all the work. I went to leadership school. I did all the things. However, because I could not pass that, I was also at the tail end of my service. So it was like, work really hard to sew on, or you're about to jump out of this joint in a few months anyway. So we jumped out. We did not work that hard. Yeah. Because also, if you look at the weights, there are some unrealistic weight standards. It's based on the BMI chart, which that's a whole nother conversation about how America set up a BMI chart.
BMI chart. Yeah.
Listen, as a Black woman, that BMI, it's a lie.
Yeah.
It is a lie. If I were the weight that chart suggested, I would look ill. Like I would not look healthy.
Right.
For your height.
In any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Like I know what a healthy weight looks like on me, and that is not that BMI chart is not it.
People are not universal, I don't think, in that thing. But I'm just picturing you as a sergeant. I'm picturing, of course, I just watched Officer and a Gentleman recently because I'm trying to watch all of Robert Loggia's movies. And so you were Lou Gossett Jr., wasn't he a sergeant?
I didn't get there. I didn't sew on. So I passed my test. So there's a few. So when you get to that level, you take a test.
Yeah.
And then you have to go to leadership school. Most people do not pass the test on their first go, but I was lucky enough to do so and get to leadership school. And I was a top performer in leadership school. Like I won the top award. So I did good.
Yeah. And you still passed the test to be a sergeant.
Physically, I wouldn't meet my physical requirements, and some people would let it slide. I worked in a very male-dominated office that did a lot of woman sabotaging, so there was a lot of campaigns for me not to get to the final leg of it. So I left without sewing it on. I earned it, but I left without getting to sew it on.
I am from now on going to picture you beating the shit out of Richard Gere.
Okay, I'll take it. All right. That I can do. That's not rank related. I can just beat up anybody.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's fine.
And boy, I'll say, Richard Gere was an attractive young man when he was younger.
All right.
He's still attractive.
I see what all the hubbub was about. I always thought he was a weird looking older guy, but okay. That same day, Goodnight Irene by Gordon Jenkins and the Weavers topped the Billboard bestsellers and stores chart. Okay. That was the chart. You know that song, Goodnight Irene?
I probably.
My dad would say Goodnight Irene every night.
What?
Goodnight Irene before we went to bed. He'd always say that. He must have liked that song.
Was someone in your house Irene, or he just said it?
No, we had nobody named Irene. He said Goodnight Irene.
I love that song.
My dad was an odd guy.
Yeah, he was.
I never knew what he was talking about until I read this. I knew there was a song called that, I guess. But, okay. Yeah, my dad would have to be an odd guy to know me and Andy.
I was about to say, something strikes me as not straight-laced.
Yeah, what? Yeah.
He was actually real straight-laced, but...
He was very conservative, but he was goofy, but not not funny. I mean, sometimes he was goofy. Anyway, We'll jump to August 22nd, 1950, where TBJ has a cool story about Miss Althea Gibson.
Okay.
So we're going to sprinkle a little bit of Black girl magic.
Nice.
On August 22nd, 1950.
That's good. Bring it to 1950. That's what we've been missing.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Black girl magic.
It is. Let's be real, America. Up until this point, that's what you've been missing.
Yes.
So think about it. Althea Gibson is 23 at this time. She was born 1927 in August herself. So I'm thinking of this as a birthday present. Like the universe gave her a birthday present because she was born August 25th, 1927, down the road in Silver, South Carolina. So not far
from here,
from where we are. However, leading to the 30s, life was hard in the South. Let's be real. It was hard in the South for a lot of people, but farmers were really struggling at that time. So her family relocated up north, first stop in Philadelphia, and then they settled into Harlem, New York. So do a little Harlem shake right there, if you know what I'm talking about. So it was still tough up north. Her family still struggled to make ends meet. There was public assistance. And she found herself struggling as a student. She was not it in the classroom. She was skipping. She quit at one time. However, sports kept her motivated. If it wasn't for sports, she probably would not have continued in school. Wow. Fun fact, she actually started with table tennis. So she did not play on the court initially.
Wait,
so
ping pong?
Officially table tennis. Yes. Ping pong. So she started there. And she, in fact, at 12 in 1939 was the New York City women's paddle tennis champion.
Really?
So not only did she dabble, she owned table tennis. It was her jam.
Wow.
But what happened is tennis pros were starting to pay attention, or athletes around were like, wait a minute, girl, you got some talent. And so she was invited to play actual tennis. And there are lots of stories that go on about her having to play at night when tennis courts were closed, because again, 1950s and prior were not known to be a hotbed of welcomingness for African Americans.
Definitely not.
Tennis was, and I would dare say is still, a very segregated sport. I mean, we got Venus and Serena and some others, but it is a hard battle to fight when you are not what is considered mainstream tennis.
And that was, when was Arthur Ashe?
I think 80s, I think.
So this was way before
1950. This is crazy.
Arthur Ashe was still. No, it wasn't Arthur Ashe. Who was her mentor? Hold on. I researched it and now I got to look it up. But
Serena and Venus, I don't know anything about tennis, so I might be completely wrong, and maybe you don't know TBJ, but don't they win every single year the whole championship of everything? One of those.
They are not as they are not as top right now. I mean, they're still killing the game, but they're getting older, and Serena has struggled a little bit coming back from motherhood into the tennis game.
Which one is the stronger of the Williamses? Are they
Serena,
equal?
I think.
Serena's got more under her belt.
More championships, but I thought I heard somewhere that
Venus is older.
Oh, Venus is older. Okay.
Mm-hmm. But it was there. So this came because their dad was like, listen, y'all about to dominate this sport. And he basically was like Tiger Woods' daddy and had them out there on a court learning something they weren't familiar with. They didn't start out saying, ooh, I want to play tennis so bad. Yeah. It was one of those things where their dad was like, listen, we're going to do a thing.
Yeah.
We're going to do a thing. And if you're going to do it, you're going to be real good at this thing and no one can stop you. Yeah. But it's they accredit it to a lot of things in being unstoppable in business and how they carry themselves because their dad gave them that work ethic that you will do it. And even, Serena has partnerships with Nike. Her bank account is doing wonderfully.
Well, they're so athletic. I mean, you have to be athletic to play tennis, I think. I can't. Yeah. I've played sports, and I'm mediocre at best at most sports. But tennis, I can't even return one. I can't even. I don't get how you know where the ball's gonna go. Like you can't guess where they're gonna, and they're gonna always throw it to where you can't get to.
Yeah,
I don't.
You've got to. You're moving, and you've got to be alert. I think that was what would kill me because I would get sidetracked. There are people watching you on both sides. Like, and not only am I like taking it all in, I have to zone in on this dang on little yellow ball.
Yeah, I can barely hit a ball if I'm standing still and you're throwing it to my bat. Like, you're trying to let me hit it, and I can't hit it. But geez.
Right, and it's not a big ball. It's not a softball. P.S. She's before Arthur Ashe because one of her mentors Arthur Ashe.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So as she is getting really good at playing tennis, her neighbors are like, "Yo, this girl needs our support." Oh, cool. So they essentially raise money together to get her playing more and get her into tournaments and championships. So
that's cool.
It is her neighbors.
So the community came together in Harlem to like support this girl.
Right.
That's awesome.
Think Akilah and the Bee when everybody was helping Akilah spell, but tennis. Make it tennis. So that's essentially everyone got together to do that.
Yeah.
Again, still very segregated. She was at the top of her game. She was never going to get into any national orgs. And so in 1941, the American Tennis Association was formed, and that was basically the African American tennis side of things. Okay. And so she entered that in 41. She wins the New York State Championship because, again, she is a badass. Yeah. Nothing is going to stop that. She's also still in high school at this time. She doesn't graduate high school until 1946.
Okay.
So when I say tennis kept her going, it kept her going because if she would not have been playing and had not had the support of her neighbors, she would not have gone to class. She would not have gotten to the part where she needed to be there.
She would have just been a statistic probably, just another.
Just living a struggle life and scrapping in together and making it work. So that brings us, that's the 40s. That's 49. She trains. She's doing her thing. She moves in with a advocate and a doctor in Wilmington to really help her game, Dr. Eaton. He and his family are really there for her. And then she's with Dr. Johnson and family, and they're working on tennis, tournaments, traveling, getting her together. Okay. And Johnson is who also later mentors Arthur Ashe.
Okay. Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. So he is an avid civil rights activist, tennis lover, enthusiast, and a doctor. And he is instrumental in not one, but two tennis legends' lives. Okay. So now we are at 1950 again.
Yep.
A little bit of black girl magic. She is 23. I don't know about you, but I was not conquering a lot at 23.
Nope.
No.
It's probably, still finding my sea legs at 23.
I was drunk all the time at 23.
Yep.
I was drunk
every 33
Taco
and 43.
Tuesday, spaghetti Wednesday.
Yeah.
Thirsty Thursday. Then it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep. I think that's still happening now, Joe.
Hey, I have a giant beer right here.
So after she's killing the game on the ATA circuit, she is traveling, she's hitting tournaments, she's winning, but she has not played on the U.S. tournament field, which again is primarily white. Yep. So it takes Alice Marble, who is a former tennis champion, a white woman, to be like, listen, she writes a letter.
Did you say Alice Marble?
Mm-hmm.
Alice Marble. That's a funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. She writes a letter and she basically is like, this is stupid, y'all. Like, she is an undeniable champ. Mm-hmm. There's no reason she should not be playing at these tournaments. Yeah. And it is that which eventually the United States Championship was like, which is now the U.S. Open. Finally, we're like, okay, we'll let her in. So that's when she makes history. In 1950, she's the first African-American woman to play at the U.S. Nationals.
Wow.
Now, she does win the first round. She loses the second, but listen, the first.
Yes.
At 23, not only did you play your heart out all these years, but you were able to take a national stage.
Yeah, really.
And change the game. So, she still plays for a little while, so that's kind of her big introduction to the world outside of her community. She goes on to graduate college in 1953. So number one, shout out to the people for keeping her engaged, because not only did she finish high school, she finished college.
Yeah.
And this is a girl who was ready to drop out of school really young because she hated being there.
Yeah.
The U.S. finally is like, all right, I mean, you do your thing. So in 1955, they send her on a goodwill tour to Asia. So we know what's going on. Yeah. So there is a goodwill tour that she's on with Carl Figaro. Figaro? I always say it wrong.
Yeah.
But she's out there doing her thing. She wins the French Open in 1956.
Wow.
And then in 1957, she is finally the first African-American woman to win Wimbledon.
Wow.
Wimbledon. So she is done the darn thing. And then she comes back 7 years after she came in to finally win the U.S. Open. So she is literally the definition of being a boss. Some people likened her career in tennis to Jackie Robinson's career in baseball.
Yeah.
Wow.
She becomes the door opener and getting it done. In 1958, she repeats. She is winning 2 years in a row, doing the darn thing. 1959, she becomes like, hey, girl, why don't you come over here and play before the Globetrotter games? So she's in a contract there where she is taking it to the next level, or she felt like she was taking it to the next level. She goes on to play until she retires in the 1970s. But one of the things I found most interesting, though, when she read it and she, you know, the world is looking at her and being like, oh, you opened all the doors. This is amazing. But she talks about how she looked at her counterparts and they were still getting offers and invites and contracts that she was never getting. Mm-hmm. So while she may have been the first, the segregation was still very real. Mm-hmm. She still felt it very, very often. And it still, to her, felt like she had to fight for every chance she got. And she made her round and she did some fantastic things up until 2003. So that wasn't that long ago, but that's when she passed away. So between her retiring in the 70s and going on, you know, she's responsible for being the face of Pepsi, getting tennis to kids in areas that normally get tennis. She's left a legacy behind. She's been involved in education pieces of that. But, you know,
that's awesome.
Again, this is August 1950. Mm-hmm. God bless her, because she did the damn thing.
That's right.
In a time where they tried to hold the door shut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she was able to get in and prove that she was worthy.
Althea Gibson. And that's the thing. That's amazing to me that she did all that in that time, and we don't hear about her. Like,
I know.
Have you ever heard of her?
No, I've never heard of her.
I've never heard of her once. Like, she's the perfect.
Then you did not get Black History books in February like I got as a child.
That's right. But that's just the thing with, I don't know, the whole thing about women in history that we don't hear about, and that's the other thing. She's not only, like you said, Jackie Robinson of tennis. Like, she's not only the first African American woman, she's the first African American person.
Yeah,
men and women, to qualify for the Grand Slam.
So right, she's only the second African American athlete, period, to be on a national stage.
Yeah, there you
go.
So
that still tells you, you know, when we say 1950, it is not the idyllic place for everybody.
Nope.
And you're waiting for doors to be open when you're clearly worthy. Her talent was unmistakable and undeniable. And it took a former top-notch tennis player to be like, you guys, like, we can't keep denying something.
Yeah.
Had that support not have come, I don't know when the U.S. Open would have been open to letting that happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine those you can just imagine those conversations too behind closed doors where
it was heated.
Yeah. That's crazy. TBJ, that was awesome.
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Well, thanks. You're welcome. That's your Black Girl Magic for 1950.
That's exactly. I emailed her. I was like, "Do you want to do this story or this story?" It's like, I think what we need is some Black Girl Magic for 1950. And I was like, that's exactly what we need.
Yeah,
it was great. I didn't want to.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was great. That was so cool, and I've never heard of her, and that's a shame. But there's this whole thing, like with our Nerdy Night series, we kind of do these female empowerment shows where we talk about these women in history, and it's it's crazy how often that happens. That nobody hears about these women.
Yep.
These great women who
No.
have done everything.
Because no one's talking about, listen,
Yeah.
let's open your history books, and the only women you're hearing about,
Yeah.
even if you hear about them, it's a quick blurb.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
if you open your books, unless you grew up in a household that talked about it, celebrated it, were finding your resources, you weren't going to know.
That's
And
right.
I think we still do that to this day. Women don't get equal say and story time in our history.
Right.
And we have some badass women
Yeah.
who have blazed some trails who don't get proper, like, hey, she did a thing.
That's
so
right.
Yeah.
I always love talking about, I love any chance to hype up some women.
Well, that's good.
And I
And
love
speaking of
it.
kick-ass women in history, so a few episodes back, we talked about, actually it might have been like 2 or 3 episodes ago. I don't know if you remember, Aim, and I talked about Katherine Johnson, Tubby Johnson, who was the first girl to play Little League.
Yes.
And she cut her ponytail off to
Yeah.
play Little League. And
Aw.
I found her on Facebook and had messaged her. She's in New York somewhere. She's still
she
alive.
replied?
She wrote a book. She just replied today.
Oh my goodness.
She
Oh my
replied to me. It was
goodness.
like, "Oh, I just saw this on Messenger," and I was like, "Oh, I already talked about you on an episode, but I would still love to interview you." But now I'm thinking, after talking to you, TBJ, and thinking about the Ladies History Nerdy Night Out show, I should put her in touch with one of you fine ladies to
Do her
something
story.
like a story of her.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that
and
be
a
cool?
reminder that March is coming, so that's a good time to do another nerdy night in.
We could have
Joe.
her zoom in and interview her or whatever. You could do her whole biography and then bring her on. So
Yeah,
I answered
that's-
her, but we'll talk. I'll try
Yeah.
to get her on, but that'd be great.
have
That's
her
funny.
in, because I think it's good to hear. Like, I don't know if you've ever watched. So there's a video of the woman who ran the first New York Marathon, the first woman to do it.
New York, not
And-
Boston. We talked about the Boston one, didn't we?
Yeah, I think
Was
so.
she might have been Boston?
If you said her name, we would probably remember it.
But I don't know if you've ever seen videos, but there are videos of men actively trying to manhandle
Yeah, we
Yeah.
talked about
this
that.
woman.
They chased her
from
in a truck.
just
Grabbing her shirt and stuff.
running.
Yeah.
Like, how does her run? Listen, if that girl wants to run 26 miles, God bless her, because none of us about to run it.
Yep.
Who you weren't even about to run it, sir. You're just angry
Oh yeah.
because it's
That
a
was a
woman
mess.
showing.
Yeah, that guy in the suit grabbing her. Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, she actually
It's
Oh, yeah.
insane to me.
She peed herself and had to throw her under her pea-covered pants. But that's common, I guess, in America.
Yeah, I mean, it's
But-
common when you're running
What
marathons
are we
for the
talking
people
about
out
right
there.
now?
No,
But
that's
it's
the thing,
like-
yeah.
It's these women who are doing these things, and I wish we had more. We only know so much about Althea, but I wish we had more, because I can guarantee you there are stories
Yeah.
about
Yes.
when she took the court and what that looked like and what people were saying. Because I know from Venus and Serena, the reception wasn't always warm when they took a court.
No.
So take that
Right.
times
Still to this
1950.
Still to this day, anything Serena or Venus do. Well, remember when I can't remember which one it was that I think it was Serena that got mad at. I mean, I don't watch any tennis, but I heard about it. Like
Where she got
she
upset
yelled
and
at
then
somebody, and
she,
it's like,
yeah.
everybody does that, but if she does it,
And
Oh,
it
yeah.
wasn't even aggressive.
she's
and
being
she
an
looked
aggressive
at
woman, you
Yep.
know,
Aggressive black woman.
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's like it wouldn't be the same if she was John McEnroe. John
Meanwhile,
McEnroe,
yep.
he got to
just
do whatever
just
he wanted.
destroying tennis.
Yeah.
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 That dude was out here destroying tennis clubs, just bang, bang, bang.
That guy's throwing
And she
crazy
literally
fits.
did not directly yell at anyone in particular,
Yeah.
but out of frustration because you're an athlete, right? Michael Jordan gets a free pass for being an ass to all his teammates because he wanted the best. But so he was allowed to be an ass, and we basically watched a documentary where he's like, "Yeah, I was an ass because I was driving them to better."
Yeah, right.
And that's okay. But, to be a woman, to be a black woman, to walk in the door, you are not allowed to be anything other than great. And even then, the barriers don't stop. The reception
Yeah.
is still cold.
Absolutely.
yeah, bullshit.
So
Yeah, it's bullshit. We got a long way to go, and I think that's the big thing is that even though it's 2020, I think people need to realize, like, that's American enough for people
2021,
to
Joe.
think Everything's all, oh, shit, it's 2021, yeah. Yeah, anyway, yeah, jeez, that's crazy. Yeah, it's 2021. Okay, we're going to jump to Amy. So thank you, Tiffany. That was awesome.
Yes,
I knew
thank
you'd
you.
be great at this. I'm so glad to have you, and we will definitely have you back if you're willing to come back after this. But because you're so good and succinct at that you have that black girl magic about presenting the story. So
I love storytelling.
Yeah, you're so good at it too, and everybody loves you. Friday, August 25th, 1950, the U.S. hospital ship USS Benevolence sank in San Francisco Bay after being rammed accidentally by the freighter SS Mary Luckenbach.
Oops.
While both were sailing in a dense fog. No patients were aboard the Benevolence because try to say benevolence. After having 3 giant beers. Because it was on a trial run to prepare for service in Korea. But 31 of its 523 civilians and military personnel drowned.
Oh my goodness.
31
that's too
people
bad.
drowned because they crashed into each other.
I know.
Wow.
And I'm going to jump. That's all I got.
Okay.
Until August 29th, which is a Tuesday of 1950. Actually, I have. Oh, that's the same day that you're going to tell me something that happened. Mm-hmm. The same day that the first United Kingdom troops arrived in South Korea, as 2 battalions of the 27th Infantry Brigade reached the UN bridgehead at Busan. So the UK joined in the fray. That's my thing. So, yeah, so you're going to tell us, I don't even know what you're covering.
Well, I am going to cover, and this last name is very difficult.
Okay.
It's Dusza. So the Dusza Family Murders is what I'm going to talk about.
Oh, this is the Dusza Family Murders. Dusza.
Dusza. The
Dusza Family Murders. Okay.
So, on Tuesday, I got my information from EastGreenwichNews.com, an article by Bruce Mastrocchio.
Bruce Mastrocchio. That's a cool name.
And the Boston Globe and the Star from August 31st, 1950, and the Star News from August 31st, 1950.
Okay. Isn't the Star News like a tabloid? I can't remember.
I don't know.
I know when we had the Scottish fellas on there, they told us whatever reference you were using.
It's a tabloid.
That's a complete tabloid rag, but that's funny. Okay, anyway.
So the Providence Journal headline said, 5 known dead in East Greenwich. 6th feared lost. 3 victims are children. Blaze puts phone out of action. Delaying alarm in lonely section.
Oh.
So the firemen recovered 5 bodies that day.
Ooh.
Fred Doja, 39, his pregnant wife, Beatrice, 31, and their 3 children, Beatrice, 11, Catherine, 8, and Gail, 3.5.
I told you to keep children out of this.
Missing in the count was the body of the boarder, Edward Reynolds, 27.
A 27-year-old boarder? That means there are people living with him, right?
Yes.
Now, a boarder would be different than a landlord because they're living with him, right? He's living there too?
That's right.
Okay.
So,
but his body's missing?
Yeah.
Oh, so he's the murderer.
So there was evidence that the fire started in the cellar, then quickly spread through the 2-story, 7-room house that Doja had built himself. When a neighbor discovered it, the house was already an inferno. Just after 4 a.m., the light from the Doja phone came on at the switchboard in the Greenwich Exchange, but the operator got no response. The whole party line phone system in the area was shorted out.
Oh, it's party lines. We talked about that sometimes. That's how things were in the 50s.
That's right. Another neighbor drove the 4 miles into town and raised the alarm. When the firemen got there, the house was pretty much in ruins. The fire appeared to have started under strange circumstances because Leon Gendron, father of Mrs. Doja, said the house had no heat or cooking fire.
Oh.
So Mr. Doja was a hard-luck soul who had lost an eye in one accident, fingers from his hand in another, had at least 2 other accidents, and had lost his pig farm in another town to bankruptcy.
Whoa.
And his house was once struck by lightning.
Poor guy. Some people,
Lord have mercy.
some people just have
people
everything,
like,
all the
Job?
cards
Yeah.
stacked
Middle
against.
name Job? I feel like we're in the biblical storytelling.
Yes. The first body was found at 8 a.m. Subsequently, the firemen found 4 more. Despite intensive searching, the volunteers could not find the body of the itinerant boarder, Edwin Reynolds, who was staying with the Doja family and doing odd jobs there so he could be close to his estranged wife and children who lived just up the road from the Doja pig farm.
Oh, I see. Boarder, like he's staying with them. They're not staying with him.
No, right.
That would be a boardie.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. Boarder is, I'm stupid.
He had been
The
separated
boarders
from his wife the previous Christmas Day after being married for 8 years. So then the questions start to surface.
Wait, Christmas Day they broke up?
Yes.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's
Must have
not the
been
guy.
a
With, he's not the guy with everything, the fingers and all that stuff.
That's the
father.
farmer.
Yeah, the farmer.
Reynolds was found. So it was. They search. They realize that he's missing.
Yeah.
They search and search. Finally, they find him at the house of his estranged wife, less than 24 hours after the murder.
Oh.
And he quickly confessed.
Oh, right away. So I murdered this farming family that took me in. This downtrodden pig farming family, super nice, everything against them. I murdered them.
Well, he was not. He was cool and not nervous, according to reports.
That means he's crazy, right?
As he detailed the slow-paced slaughter in the 7-room house on a lonely farming section on the edge of town. The murders started about midnight after Mrs. Doja's father left after a Monday night visit. So the father-in-law's there.
Yeah.
He leaves. And then Doja accuses Reynolds,
the boarder.
Yeah, of being the father of Mrs. Doja's unborn child.
Oh, he thinks there's an affair going on.
Yes.
And the twist.
Yeah, that is the twist.
And in the confession, he admitted he was the father, in fact.
Oh, whoa, this is tawdry.
So he had been a boarder at the Doja home since the previous December when he became... Oh, I already said that. Hold on.
Yeah, when he left his wife on Christmas Day.
In his confession...
To go have an affair with the other guy's wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In his confession, he stated that it started with a fist fight, and that he then he struck Doja with a chair.
Oh, like full WWE action here.
Then crushed his skull with the blunt end of an axe, while Mrs. Doja looked on terrified.
Holy crap.
So then Mr. Doja didn't die right away.
Oh.
Mrs. Doja started begging him to call the doctor. He ordered her to sit with him, and he smoked several cigarettes.
Because then, so you got to picture it. It's 1950. These cigarettes, number one, don't have filters.
No.
Number two, you call the doctor any time of day and night, and they come to your house with a bag.
That's right. So first he told her he was going to kill her. Then he told her he wouldn't. But when she left the room briefly, he got a silk stocking from a drawer. When she came back and sat in a chair, he came up behind her and garroted her with the stocking. She didn't fight much, he said.
She just...
After both murders, he drank coffee and smoked several more cigarettes. 11-year-old Beatrice then came into the kitchen.
Oh, man.
She started crying when she saw the bodies of her parents.
As you would.
Yes.
As you should.
Reynolds told police he choked her with his hands, then strangled her with a necktie.
Nice.
So then,
what the heck, man?
I know.
That's crazy.
So then he sat there some more, smoking and drinking coffee amidst the 3 bodies.
And there's 2 more kids in the house, right?
Yes.
Sleeping?
Yes.
How do they sleep through all this?
I don't know.
Well, they're children.
Well, he
sleep
went
through
up.
anything.
They're up in the attic, is how.
Oh.
So then he went to the attic and got 2 pieces of clothesline.
Oh.
So he went to the children's bedroom where he garroted 3-year-old Gail, then 8-year-old Catherine.
What are you saying as the verb?
Garroted.
Garroted?
Yeah.
Does that just mean choke?
Yeah. No, it's you take a string and you...
Oh, you do like
go
a
around,
knot?
not a knot. You twist it around and then you pull.
Yeah, like you're tying a shoe, but their heads are
right.
in the...
Yes, correct.
Oh, that's called garroting?
Yes.
And that's...
A garrote
This
is
is
what you would use to do that.
This is just lingo that murder lovers know?
I thought it was pretty common parlance.
I've never heard that before. What did you just say? Parlance?
Yes.
Oh my goodness! Am I talking to my grandmother over here?
All right.
No,
Anyway,
she's just testing your SAT words.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I'm failing miserably.
you are. You had too many beers.
Well, no, I don't know those words, and I'm sober.
So then he dragged the bodies of the parents to the bedroom, and then he took Beatrice up to the children's room, little Beatrice, up to the children's room. When it got to be about 3 o'clock in the morning, he siphoned gasoline from his car, put it in a tea kettle, and sprinkled it about the home.
Oh.
He emptied the kettle around the sofa and across the living room carpet. He sat there
quick
for some
thinking.
time, then he lit a match and threw it near the sofa. After the building burst into flames, he stood and watched it for about 10 minutes until he heard the fire trucks. Then he went into the nearby woods where he hid all day.
Oh.
Neighbors said the fire trucks were delayed because the party line phone had been short-circuited, which I had already mentioned.
Now,
that.
I think where he went wrong is, you said from the beginning, everybody was dead in the house, was on fire, and they couldn't find this guy.
Yeah.
So right away we knew it was him. If he would have just like laid somewhere like nearby or like given himself some burns,
Yeah, so that he looks
got
like he
out or something,
survived
or like
it.
burn, like you gotta have some sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know, but he survived.
Or
Yeah.
not kill the children, so it's not automatically you.
Well, then carry him out. Yeah, like carry the children out, especially the last two.
Yeah, really.
like you found them.
Yeah, exactly. You came in and saved them. You got home and the house was on fire.
Right. True.
But obviously, if you're murdering children in their sleep with a garroted or whatever you're saying, if you garrote children, there's something wrong with you mentally, and you're kind of not going to get away with this anyway.
That's right.
I guess.
So then that night, he went to the house of his estranged wife, Mrs. Betty Reynolds.
Okay.
But she was not at home.
Oh, she was out.
But he stayed there at her house. Even though she wasn't there, he went in.
Oh, he stayed there.
Yeah. So all day on August 29th, it was first believed that Reynolds had perished in the flames because the body of a man was discovered in the ruins, but police weren't able to establish the identity.
Really?
So while they were unable to locate a sixth body, and the medical examiner found remnants of silk stockings and cords around the body of Mrs. Doja and the children, the police sent out an APB for both men because they didn't know whether it was the dad or
you wouldn't
the
know
mortar.
if it burned that bad.
Edwin Reynolds, 27, confessed slayer of a family of 5, languished in a Providence County jail cell under special guard, awaiting the arrival of what they called alienists, which are the psychiatrists, who will conduct mental tests. That was in the 1950 paper.
They called psychiatrists alienists?
Yes, that's what they called them.
Wow. That's I don't know.
I'm getting this from this 1950 article.
Yeah.
The emotionless father of 3, whose estranged wife described him as a guy who wouldn't even kill a chicken, pleaded guilty to 5 counts of murder. He was arraigned before District Court Judge James W. Leighton in the council chamber of the East Greenwich Town Hall and on Main Street. He maintained an icy nonchalance as he stood charged with the slaying of his former friend, his friend's wife, and their 3 children. The judge ordered a plea of innocent given as he held the rubber plant worker for a grand jury hearing October 23rd. All right, let me just a little bit left.
I really wish we could compare this guy to the husband that she cheated with to see who's better looking. But you can't, right? There's no pictures of them on the internets. Is there?
Yeah, I don't think. I couldn't find any.
Yeah, I don't see much.
So
I mean, you dig pretty deep to find a murder for every single month of 1950.
It was very hard.
Yeah.
So
so many murders.
She said she would stick by her husband to a point, but it was also learned that she was making plans to move out of East Greenwich to another community. That's Mrs. Reynolds we're talking about.
Yeah.
So anyway, they go through the trial. The judge leaves the courtroom, and the cameramen were given time to take pictures of Reynolds standing at the rail, flanked by 2 police officers, still wearing the soiled white T-shirt and dungarees he had on when he was captured.
Dungarees
Yeah.
are the old person term for jeans. I do know that word.
Oh, okay.
My grandma used to say dungarees. Get your dungarees and put them on the Davenport.
Yeah. Before he was taken out, police went out and moved the agitated crowd back enough to give a wide path from the courthouse to the waiting cars, waiting to take the mass murderer to prison to await trial. When Reynolds appeared, the crowd shook fists and yelled at him. As he was put into the car, the crowd broke and surged around the vehicles, some to get a peek and some to scream their thoughts at the killer at least one more time. Wow. So at the end, he was given a life sentence, but in about 2016 or so, I couldn't find out. He either died or he got out of prison. It was the...
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was 92 years old at that point.
When did he get sentenced?
In 1953?
Oh, you never gave me the October 23rd date, did you?
Yeah, she said it.
You said something happened on October 23rd?
The judge ordered a plea of innocent given as he held the rubber plant worker for a grand jury hearing October 23rd. It was part of that quote. So.
You said that and I was like zoning.
Busy.
I was trying to look for his picture.
Yeah, there's no pictures, I don't think.
I'm just taking the fact that his wife was like, I'm going to try and stand by him. Girl.
Yeah.
Y'all weren't even together and he had a whole affair and got her pregnant.
I know.
Damn.
That's right.
Well, I was the reason I wanted to say that date is because I thought you were doing this October 23rd. That was the same day that film actor Errol Flynn was served with a criminal summons on the day of his marriage to Patrice Wymore in Monaco, and he was charged with the rape of a 16-year-old girl a year earlier.
Yeah, I've heard that.
You've heard that about Errol Flynn? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
He was like, yeah.
Crazy. Oh, that's awful. I mean, things were so crazy different then. Like, yeah, I don't know. Well, that's I can't believe you found another murder for 1950.
That's hard.
I mean, that just shows you we are a murdering species.
We are. It's right.
Right?
Like
I used to think people were like default good.
Yeah.
Right? Like everyone's default, you might got a little off, your
Right.
knob got turned a little wonky, but the more I listen to true crime, I'm like,
I know.
maybe the good is the oddity, because it seems like there is a lot.
Yeah,
That's right.
You're right. I think we're default bad, and we got to stop looking at, they had that bad influence when they were younger, or they had this happen to them. Let's look at what happens to the good people and try to figure out what makes them good.
Yeah, what did they overcome? Because you're born bad, I guess.
Well, something made them not be good. It might be bad,
yeah.
or they were bad and turned good. I don't know.
No, I feel like we should say the good more, because I feel like, because even, proclaimed good people, when you read some of the crimes of like, this was a doctor and this was a upstanding citizen, and you're like,
oh yeah,
but you killed 10 people, or you raped everybody in town.
That's right.
Raped everybody in town. Yeah, I guess, although we do have to say, it's kind of boring if we just talk about all the good people. Like, let's talk about Martha Volotable. She sews every weekend, and she made a scarf for her neighbor Bill.
But the thing is, you have enough material to talk about the bad. That means there's enough material out there.
There is a lot of material.
And it's not like it's not like Damien Evil. It's just like, one day I was at lunch with my girlfriend's husband, and he found out, so I killed everybody.
Really.
It's not like anyone was plotting. It's like, I didn't like my husband so much, I gave him arsenic for dinner. It is not these snappy moments. It's like everyday people, and there's enough history of everyday people just deciding, I could just kill her.
Yeah, I'm just going to murder someone now.
That's right.
End their life. Well, and then the last day of the year was a Thursday, August 31st, and all 55 persons on board TWA Flight 903, which had a scheduled final destination of New York City, were killed when the Lockheed L-749 Constellation crashed shortly after taking off from Cairo. The flight had originated in Bombay, now Mumbai, and was on the way to its next scheduled stop in Rome when it crashed.
Bummer.
And that was the only thing about that day that I had. But that is the end of August.
All right.
And this has been a cool episode, you guys, together, you lady power. Like, I'm liking this having two ladies, because you guys are smarter and better than me.
We make you look
Get that
good.
right.
Yeah, it's like with Jessica and Tara and now TBJ. Like, it's just, you guys are better, and I just rely on you guys to do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And then I just talk about Nerd Skool. So listen to Nerd Skool Podcast. TBJ, tell us about the Nerd Skool Podcast if people haven't heard.
Sure. Nerd Skool is the best. If you take a little break from true crime, this is coming from a murderino, take a little break from true crime and dig into what nerds really know about nerddom. So we are three nerds. We've got a super high level nerd in Andy. We've got a pretty high nerd in art, but you wouldn't know it.
He's a
art
different
star.
kind of nerd.
And then you have me, which is the surprise nerd. If I don't bring it up, or you hadn't talked about my favorites in nerddom, you would never know how much I live in the nerd universe.
That is true.
And right now we're walking through the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Joe and answering all of his questions.
I have a lot of nerd questions.
Yes.
You do.
Yeah, and
we
we're
answer
covering,
them.
We're recording tomorrow, and we're covering Thor. But if you're listening to this episode, if you're listening to this on the day it came out, this Wednesday, a new episode of Nerd Skool is out. Episode 6, I think.
You don't even know.
I think we're on 6.
You're under 10 and you don't know.
Well, I don't know which one I put out. I don't remember which one I put out.
He's just. But
we're talking about Incredible
flinging them
Hulk.
out.
Yep.
We're talking about the Hulk from 2011.
Okay.
Yes, we're talking
Ed
about
Norton.
the Ed Norton Hulk, which is often forgotten about.
Yeah. People forget that Ed Norton even played the Hulk.
Yes, plenty of people do. And I think he's okay with that. But
Yeah.
we talk about it anyway. So it's just a gang of friends nerding out, Joe learning some things that he did not know, us being very patient, Artstar and I arguing about random things. I mean, there are arguments over Tom Cruise. There are debates over Don Cheadle versus, what's his name? I'm not going to say his name because he don't
Terrence
matter.
Howard. Oh,
I said I'm
she's
not
on
going
the
to say his
Cheadle
name.
camp. She's
'cause he
clearly in
don't
the Cheadle
matter.
camp. Yeah. That's funny.
And it is just a fun vibe. So if you're looking for some fun vibes from some nerds, who knew fun vibes and nerds together?
Yeah,
That's right.
It really
Nerd.
does. And TBJ and Art really bring the cool, like they make it cool to kind of be a nerd. And so, and they, I'm glad you say patient, because I do have, because they'll be talking real fast and they'll be talking about some thing that I've never heard of.
Right.
I'm like, wait, back it up a little bit. What are you even talking about? And it's a thing nerds take for granted. And sometimes I think they're exasperated that I don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they have to dumb it down for me. But I think that makes it accessible to everybody. Like you don't have to be a super comic nerd to get something out of it. You can be an everyday Joe, like me, an everyday Joe. And you learn something about, all these movies that are coming out.
And I think it's great because even if you've watched all the movies, there's backstory we're talking about. When we're talking about Ed Norton and his decision to no longer be the Hulk, and we're talking about the first appearance of certain people in comics and what that looked like when we're talking to Joe. So you're taking on more than just a movie. So that's pretty fun too.
Yeah, it's really cool, and TBJ is fun to just talk to and BS with too, as is Artstar and my brother Andy, who I've always just called Andy anyway after any Marvel movie, any superhero movie at all, or nerd movie, even Star Wars movies. I'd call him, be like, okay, what the hell is a midi-chlorian or whatever, and he nerds out for me and makes it understandable for a normal person who doesn't live in that nerd world. So I thought that's an interesting thing to make a podcast about, and we'll see how it goes. And then we added TBJ and Art because one day they were just talking super nerd, and I couldn't believe they were both nerds. We were
fighting over something. It was either we often fight over good versus bad, light versus
dark side versus light side.
And we take it into more than one area. So I think the day you got us, we were talking about Kylo Ren and fighting. But that, we talk about it in relation to every superhero and villain.
Well, and so in depth. Like, they got so in depth about it. So I had a million questions for those guys. And then
because I had to question my friendship with him that day because he believed in something that I just find a no-no.
Well, and then Andy walked in, and this whole conversation went on forever. And then somebody walked in and was like, this sounds like a podcast. So we're like, let's do it. So we're doing it, and it's Nerd Skool, and it's fun. Anyway, thanks, everybody, for listening.
Yes.
But it's time to go.
Time to get out of here, Chuck Berry.
And let Dale through.
That's right.
That's my new thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 2021. This is the first episode of 2021.
Yes.
Yep, so thank you, TBJ. You're our first guest of 2021.
Thank you so much. Woohoo.
Yes,
Thank you both. Thanks for having
great.
me.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you back for sure because you give us great content and sound bites.
Well, you can't get rid of me. And Amy, I don't know if he's told you, but I told him we were friends before I ever met you. So
yeah, he's always told me that. Yeah,
I want you two to make a buddy action flick where you guys have your style with your glasses and your fancy hair and your flowers and everything, and you guys just kick everybody's ass. That'd be fun.
It's in the works. Let's wrap it up.
I'll throw my back out, but
you'll throw your back out. Well,
we'll have doubles. My back is no good.
That's right. All right, that sounds good.
CGI. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks, TBJ, for being here. We'll see you next time, and check her out at Nerd Skool.
Yes.
And Aim, I'll see you in the kitchen later.
Yep.
For
see you in a
some
few.
soup. All right. Good night, everybody.
Oh, my child, it's about to get wild. Have you been down on the streets today? Say, yeah, now, baby, it's about to get crazy. Everybody's got something.
American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
Thank you. Love you.